depending on how you look at this and what type of Dragon Ball fan you are, we might potentially have one of the worst news that could be possible regarding the Dragon Ball Super Manga. At least if you're a Dragon Ball fan and depending on your perspective. And that is with the fact that Toyotaro is working on a new manga. Yep, so apparently it's going to be an original manga. According to Hype, well, here it says, according to Japan Expo Paris, Toyotaro is set to make an original manga. He will talk about his project with Kazuhiko Torishima, Dragon Ball's editor, at this panel. Thanks to Von DBZ for tagging me. So if we go to Von DBZ posts, she translates this, to which she confirms, according to the text, that Toyotaro is doing an original manga. To which she also says it's worded as Toyotaro speaks to Torishima about his project of an original manga doesn't mean Dragon Ball Super is dead. Maybe it'll be drawn by Nakayama if Toyo goes on its own. His first project for an original manga means a manga which isn't related to Dragon Ball. DBS even wrote out Toriyama isn't original manga. Torishima can't comment, edit new DB stuff anyway, and if it is DB related, it is not his first project. That'd be AF or Victory Mission. So either Toyotaro did an original manga specifically for the panel, plus intends on returning to Black Frieza as he said he looked forward to it, but maybe he changed his mind, who knows, or the staff wrote it on the panel's page. So what does this mean? Well, if you're having trouble understanding what this means, it basically means that Toyotaro is going to be working on a brand new original manga, which according to this is not related to Dragon Ball at all. The thing with the Dragon Ball Super manga is that generally speaking, he's worked on the Dragon Ball Super manga from the beginning up until the superhero arc, obviously with help from Akira Toriyama here and there. So if he's doing an original manga, then naturally that means that he is not going to put any time into the Dragon Ball Super manga because he'll be preoccupied with his original manga. And a lot of people don't, well, I hope a lot of people understand this, but if you're a creative person and you're someone in charge and you're trying to do something, you have to put your all into it. So naturally for a lot of people, they can only focus on one thing. And Toyotaro is not 20 years old. You know, he's an older man. So if he's working on this, then do you actually think that he's going to be working on the whole Black Frieza arc or any other arc out past the superhero arc? Obviously not, because he'll be doing his own thing. Now, does this mean that Dragon Ball Super manga is officially dead? Not exactly, but from another perspective, you could argue that this is very bad news because with Toyotaro, he's worked on the Dragon Ball Super manga for several years, and whether you like his writing or not, he's been the guy. So if you get another writer or someone else who does the Dragon Ball Super manga, then it begs the question, how is it gonna go? Is it gonna be good? Is it gonna be bad? Say what you will for Toyotaro, but he at least has some experience with doing an original arc. He did, after all, do the Moro arc, and he did do the Granola arc. And the Granola arc was very but in my opinion anyway, that might not be a universal opinion, but the Moro arc was also one of the best arcs. And so if he's not working on it, then that's very bad news. Now, obviously with Akira Toriyama, you know, his death, rest in peace. The fact of the matter is, with his death and a lot of things in play, Dragon Ball Daima, anime stuff, one can also argue that Dragon Ball essentially ended with Akira Toriyama. From a certain perspective, one can say that all of the new material that occurs right after isn't canon, or they don't care about it because, well, Akira Toriyama is the main guy. He had a vision, and regardless of whether or not you liked his decisions in the later portion of his age, he is still the creator of Dragon Ball. Can we really trust some other people in being able to write Dragon Ball? I don't know, because we have a lot of moving parts, you know. Dragon Ball GT wasn't written by Akira Toriyama and it had good concepts, but it was also a very flawed show and it did do a lot of damage to Dragon Ball from a certain perspective. Now, there is a person called 1AD, whatever. I don't really have, I'm not on the best terms with this guy. I even have this guy muted. I can't even remember why, but whatever. He says, the thing that's being reported currently is based off the sentence, blah, blah, blah. I can't translate that, which is translated to Toyotaro will come to talk about his new creative challenge. That means that he's working, no indication on what he's working on. There is nothing about a new manga. To which actually Vaughn, DBZ, rebutes that. She's not rebuting DBS hype, but she's rebuting DP19, to which she says the translation is for the guest page, not the panel page. The event page literally says first project original manga. For all 4 words to match, it can't be DBS, Victory Mission, AF, or DB related at all. Okay, and this is a newer post, by the way. It's either his teenager original manga, which I personally don't know about, or an entirely new manga. So in my opinion, is this bad news? Yes, because if he's not working on the Dragon Ball Super manga, then that would mean that it's gonna take. For one, it's a possibility we may never see a conclusion to the Black Frieza stuff for a very long time or an indefinite amount of time. And 2, because personally, I would have preferred if Toyotaro worked on the Dragon Ball Super manga up until the very end. Because Akira Toriyama still chose him. He didn't choose anyone else. But does that mean, could someone else still do a good job or even better job? Maybe. Right now, the future of Dragon Ball is in a very weird and odd spot. Especially with the whole manga and anime stuff. In fact, I'm a big fan of ChatGPT and I asked it recently about this. Explain plus talk about Shueisha and Akio with Dragon Ball and rights. The ongoing dispute over the rights to the Dragon Ball franchise involves a complex power struggle between Shueisha and Akio Ioku. Akira Toriyama passed away in 2024. His death left the future of the franchise uncertain, especially regarding who would manage its various aspects. Toriyama had a close working relationship with Akio, who served as the head of Shueisha's Dragon Ball Room, a department dedicated to managing the franchise. In 2023, he left Shueisha to establish his own company, aiming to oversee the production of Dragon Ball content outside of the manga, such as anime and video games. The core of the dispute lies in the division of rights. Shueisha returns the rights to the Dragon Ball manga and its publication. Akio Ioku claims authority over the production of the Dragon Ball anime and games based on his close relationship with Toriyama and his role in managing other non-manga aspects. This division led to confusion among partners like Bandai Namco, which handled Dragon Ball video games. It's clear whether they should coordinate with Shueisha or Capsule Corp for licensing and production decisions. This dispute had tangible effects on the Dragon Ball franchise. Obviously, ChatGPT could be wrong about certain things, so what's said here may not be fully accurate, but I like ChatGPT, so I'm using it here. Anime production. The continuation of the Dragon Ball Super anime has been delayed. While the manga continued under Toyotaro's guidance, adapting new arcs into anime has been complicated due to the unclear rights over anime production. Projects like Dragon Ball Diamond, an original anime not based on the manga, have moved forward under Capsule Corp's Tokyo management. These projects avoid the rights issues associated with adapting the manga content. So here's what I think, okay? I think it's very possible we could still see a Dragon Ball Super movie. I think that still seems to be the safe zone in my personal viewpoint with all the knowledge I have. But it's very possible that we may never see the Dragon Ball manga exclusive, the Moro arc and the Granola arc adapted into anime format. So overall, can the Dragon Ball Super manga continue? Absolutely. In fact, it probably will. Whether it's going to be in a few months to a year to 2 years, who knows? But as of now, Toyotaro looks to be focusing on his original manga. And by definition, that would mean that he's obviously not going to be focused or have much of an input, if at all, on the Dragon Ball Super manga. And even if he did do 2 projects at once, that would lead to obviously a lot of burnout and probably bad creative decisions because you're focusing on 2 things and that's way too much for just one person. It'll definitely be interesting to see if we'll ever get a Dragon Ball Super anime again with different arcs instead of the Moro arc. It'll be interesting to see if we'll ever see Ultra Ego Vegeta introduced into new anime format without having to go through the Granola arc. And it'll probably be interesting to see if Dragon Ball Daima will ever have a season 2. A lot of complications and a lot of stuff that's unknown at the moment, unfortunately. Now, let me say this. I am not saying that everything is, I am not making any definitive statements here. I'm just putting in my personal thoughts. Obviously, it's I would say that the best safe zone for now is wait until July 6th to see what he says, and then make your own viewpoints and theories from there. Right now, people here are arguing over translation issues or other stuff, but the main thing is clear. We don't have a Dragon Ball Super manga at the moment. That's ongoing. We don't know if or when it will come back. We don't know if or when the Dragon Ball anime, Super anime will come back. We don't know if or when Dragon Ball Daima will get a season 2. A lot of things are unknown, and this is definitely a dark time for Dragon Ball in my viewpoint, especially after Dragon Ball Daima. And I like Dragon Ball Daima, by the way, but I just don't know where we go from now on.